ultimately stopped you from quitting YouTube?
Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture.
And I'm Andy Murray from What Culture, and you're watching Tom Talks Rubbish.
Subscribe below.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy, Tom Talk Trash, and stand back for another interview. This time, I'm joined by Tom, also known as Top 10 Wrestling on YouTube. So welcome to the show.
What's up, mate? It's good to be on. Thanks for having me on here. Good to be chatting to another fellow Tom.
That always makes me laugh when people say that. So, if we take us back to the beginning, where do you first discover wrestling?
Where do I first discover wrestling? I feel like I had a really weird gateway into wrestling, and I actually got into wrestling through like trading cards,
Okay.
which is like I feel like very uncommon. So I used to collect match tags, which I'm assuming as a Brit yourself, you know exactly what match tags are.
Yeah, they're football
Old
cards,
school
right?
Football trading cards, huge for kids in my school. But also that existed were cards called slam attacks, which were the WWE alternative for these cards. And I eventually just started buying those cards, decided, hey, I'll start watching wrestling. Eventually, all the guys in my year, in my school, were also watching it. And that's how wrestling like caught on in my school and amongst my friends. While most of them, you know, kind of lost interest over time, I've managed to stay onto it for probably another 12 years since then.
Fair enough. So, how did you first discover these cards? Were you out in a shop, or did someone bring them in and you were like, ooh?
I don't remember the exact reason. I think I was just aware of their existence purely because of match tags. Like you have probably match tags products advertising the slam attacks, sort of in the same shop. And so, yeah, it's really weird that it's a trade, like because of trading cards, I'm now a YouTuber, like when you really put it that deep. So that's always something I kind of think about.
So, do you think that with the way technology has changed, obviously since we were kids, because I remember these as well, do you think cards and stuff like that are a lost art?
A bit. You know what? Me and my housemates have actually started collecting like football cards for this season, just as like a hobby between the four of us.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they are a bit of a lost art. I think kids of today won't ever really grow up with trading cards the same way I grew up with them, where every year I'm collecting a new binder to restart my collection for the new year and trade with my friends, bring it into school every day to trade with my friends. I feel like no one will live that era now or live that way now.
Do you remember the card you were most proud of collecting?
Yes, 100%. I got the best the Randy Orton card in the Slam Attacks year that I started collecting was the best card, and I got it in my first pack. So I always remember that. Very first pack.
Was that just, because I can't remember, you'll know this better than I will. Was that just pure luck that whatever card that was in there was the card you got, basically, correct?
Yeah, pretty much. The packs were like, you didn't know what you were getting in most packs. And so that was just a random pack, and it had the best one right in it.
I do remember because I went through a similar phase to you, but like,
yeah,
I had about 12 Randy Ortons because every pack that I got, I had Randy Orton. I even had a Batista, and I don't think he was wrestling when I was collecting them. That didn't come out for some reason. So if we move on, how do you first? What do you remember the first actual wrestling show you watched?
I don't remember the exact first show, but I have my earliest memories of wrestling were watching it around 2009 to 2010 era with, I think Rey Mysterio and Batista were feuding around that time after the whole bragging rights. You're supposed to be my friend, you know, it was around that era. It was also around when Edge won the Royal Rumble. I remember that being a big return, and that was my introduction to Edge, just to the Royal Rumble when he came back and won. So those are my earliest memories of wrestling. as well as like CM Punk and Jeff Hardy, their feud.
What is something from that era that you feel like wrestling could take from today? And then what is something from today's era you realize you wish would have been maybe more prevalent in the 2010s and 2009?
That's a really good question, because I was kind of asking, what would I take from this current era for me as a kid to watch? But as a kid, what would I have wanted from this current era of wrestling in 2010? I definitely think just women's wrestling in general could have been obviously much more improved in that era, how it was treated, the standards of it. And definitely, I hate to use the term, but more work rate guys, more people like your AJ Styles, your people on the roster like Rey Mysterio, Dolph Ziggler, Kofi Kingston, getting them higher spots on the roster at that time. Just more work rate, more speed in matches, but still keeping it that kind of same style it was in 2010. And then I guess if I'm bringing anything from 2010 over to now, it's just the pure star power that existed in wrestling at the time. Wrestling was much more mainstream. You had so many people that were pure stars, like The Undertaker, Rey Mysterio, Edge, Batista, John Cena, Orton. These were people that, like, outside of wrestling, you knew their name, but nowadays in wrestling, you don't get much of that. And that's not anything to do with the wrestlers' faults, really, because there are wrestlers I personally think are stars. It's just wrestling isn't in a place where it once was popularity-wise, so none of that. It is very hard to take it mainstream from wrestling, I feel like. But I feel like Roman Reigns is someone who's doing a good job of that. Cena's doing a good job of that. Becky Lynch did a good job of that too.
How about, like, what if you discovered today's wrestling as a kid? Do you think you'd be into it? And then what about vice versa? If you discovered 2010s wrestling at the age you are now with no prior wrestling knowledge, do you think you would have been as into it as you are now, maybe?
I honestly, I think for me, if me now at 21 and know what's wrestling and what's 2010s, I wouldn't get into it. I think that's a definite no. But for the other question, I feel like, so what was that question again? If I was a kid discovering
Today's wrestling
now, yeah, I feel like I love the in-ring action, but I would not be able to keep up with it, because nowadays you have 3 hour Raws, 2 hour SmackDowns, 1 hour NXT, then 2 hours of AEW, then another hour of AEW, and I wouldn't be able to keep up with it. But so I'd probably be like sticking to one brand if I was a kid. I'd probably be a big WWE fan if I was a kid, I feel like, or just a big AEW fan. I'd watch one promotion.
Fair
Wouldn't be able to
enough.
keep up with both.
Fair enough. You talked about the watching what you'd watch as a kid, but what is your current consumption of wrestling?
Current consumption of wrestling is really, I just consume what wrestling I want when I want, really. I mainly watch AEW. I usually watch Dynamite every week, Rampage here and there. And I always watch the pay-per-views. I was up all night watching All Out last night.
At time of recording, because this is going to be sat on for a while. I will just say that.
And then, every now and then with WWE, I usually just watch whatever matches I'm interested in. So, like, the other night, Worlds Collide was on. I wasn't interested in the show, but I saw that on Twitter that Mandy Rose, Davenport, and Mika Samurai were having their match. So I turned it on for that. So I just watch whatever I'm interested in there. And I watch NWA a bit here and there. NWA is pretty all right. I'm interested to see where it's going now with Control Your Narrative invasion. And of
we'll
course,
get to Control Your Narrative.
Control Your Narrative is something I also watch. Maybe not for the same reasons as the others, but once again, we'll get there, like you said.
We'll go there now, to be honest. With the way that you watch Control Your Narrative, mainly for your YouTube channel, would you be watching it if you didn't have your YouTube channel?
I would absolutely not be watching it if I didn't have a YouTube channel. I wanted to make the video at first because I thought it was interesting. I thought a lot of people were talking about it, and I was like, maybe I'll check out the show, make a video out of it. So I did that, and I've just gone down this rabbit hole even further, but now I'm watching more shows talking about it. Like, it was completely unintended for it to go further than one video, but yeah, I watched that mainly for the YouTube channel. I don't think I'd watch it if I wasn't doing it for the channel, but I really am trying to, like, I don't think a lot of people believe this, but in my earliest stages watching Control Your Narrative, I'm not trying to enjoy it. I'm trying to look at the good parts, trying to,
You're trying
see
to
good
look
in
at it
everything happening.
objectively.
Exactly. I really did try to do that. It is just a shame that it's objectively quite bad. And yeah, we'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So, if we move on to your YouTube channel, how does Top 10 Wrestling start then?
Well, so it was really interesting we were talking about trading cards before, because my first ever YouTube channel was a channel dedicated to me opening trading cards. It was called Man of Match Tax. I made it when I was 9, and I would sit in front of my webcam opening match tax packs, but my webcam didn't have a mic, so I was just like silent film, just opening packs and
Oh, wow.
reacting, going ah. You can't hear it because I've got no mic, but I just made so many YouTube channels through like my teens. I had like different Minecraft channels, gaming channels. And I made a FIFA channel, which I did for 3 years. And during that time, I opened a second channel for that FIFA channel where I started making wrestling content on it. And then one day, I decided to rename that channel to do it as a little side project. I renamed that channel to Top 10 Wrestling. And I started making proper content on that Top 10 Wrestling as like a side channel to my main gaming channel. And in that 1 month of making content for Top 10 Wrestling, it overtook my gaming channel in subscribers, which I've been doing for 3 years. It overtook it in 1 month. So I was like, okay, all my focus on this now. I think I hit 10,000 subscribers that same year, and then 100,000 like a year and a bit later. And then now I'm sat 219,000 about that, and now it's my full-time job, which is pretty sick. So that's YouTube pretty much for me.
Fair enough. So, how did the initial idea? I know you spoke about like initially it was a side thing to coincide with your gaming channel, but like how at this point, what was the initial idea for Top 10 Wrestling?
So the initial idea for Top 10 Wrestling was basically I was at the time in 2015 was when I was doing Top 10 Wrestling. I was a big fan of What Culture and what Culture were doing. This was around the era where Adam Blompier, Pacitti, Ross, all the Cultaholic guys were all there. Great era and so many good content from that era. And that's when wrestling YouTube with the lists and discussion videos really started to blow up and rise, because you also had Planet Productions at the time coming up. YT Wrestling Facts was a YouTuber back in the day who was coming up really big as well. Those are the guys that existed around my era, as well as wrestling was around when I started. And so I just started doing list videos and discussion videos, and it was all kind of inspired by mainly What Culture Wrestling, really. That was the main idea for Top 10 Wrestling. I was literally going to be just doing top 10s. In my early content, I did nothing but top 10s. I was top 10 wrestling.
So without sounding really disrespectful, if you hadn't discovered the What Culture guys and their top 10s, do you think you would have been doing top 10s? And do you think you'd still be on YouTube now?
By the way, that's not disrespectful anyway. That question, so don't worry. What's it? I think if I didn't discover What Culture, I'd just continue doing what I was doing with YouTube, and that being like my second channel kind of thing. And who really knows where that would have gone? Probably nowhere. And I still believe I would be doing YouTube in some way. Like, I feel like no matter how big my channel was, I did it for so long that I would have kept going. You know, like I was 14 when I started Top 10 Wrestling. I've been doing YouTube since I was like 8 or 9. So like, I think I never would have stopped even until now when I'm 21.
So what was your outlook on YouTube when it comes to any of your content? Was it like this is just a passion project, or this is just a passion project and whatever happens? And how has your outlook changed since maybe you've got successful?
Well, when I first started Top 10 Wrestling, my idea was just to make content that I'm interested in and people haven't seen. So kind of combine so I'm talking about something I'm passionate about, but I know we'll get maybe some views because it's not talked about much. And that proved to be a working formula apparently as a kid. What a great 14-year-old mind I had apparently. But that's just kind of how I started. And to be honest, YouTube's always just been a passion project to me. Because at the end of the day, I'm just talking about wrestling online.
Mm.
I can, that's a passion to me. And while it's my job, the money is always kind of be the bonus to me, honestly. And I just love. But the fact I'm able to talk about wrestling and do that as my full-time job is awesome. As a wrestling fan, living the dream. So that's just coming out now. I just get to talk about wrestling, and especially now with my channel, I'm talking about topics I'm just interested in. I'm really glad I get to do that. I found a really good balance on I found a good audience base who are really interested in that weird side of wrestling that I am, and I think that's pretty cool.
So when does the shift happen of like I'm gonna not focus on top 10 so much, but just talk about topics that I'm interested in?
Yeah, so the top 10 genre on YouTube for wrestling and in general on YouTube really started to like wind down and die a bit. I'd say around 2017, 2018. And around that time, I took a really long break in between. And because of those things, my channel really took a hit. I lost a lot of viewers. Like my channel was dead in the water. And I did it for like another year, just ready to quit YouTube at one point because just the channel was not going well. But then I made a video called "The Day TNA Wrestling Died," and I wrote a whole script for it, edited it. It's my best video I've ever made, probably on the channel. Made a good thumbnail for it, and for some reason, I just really felt that this video was going to do well, and it basically revived my channel. That video did, and from there, I just started doing TNA content. I was so interested in TNA at the time, mainly because of the Deadlock guys. They really got me into like wanting to watch TNA because their podcast, and when they talked about TNA, shout out Deadlock boys, they are the best. And what's it? I forgot where I was. Oh yeah, I started doing TNA content, and yeah, TNA. I love TNA. It was so interesting to me. So that's where I just decided, okay, I'll just start talking about what's interesting and what I enjoy, because it seems as though there was a lot of people who are also interested in that, and that's just kind of where I had that outlook change, really.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack there because there's a lot of great content in there. So, first of all, did you ever have a thought of like, if I'm not doing top 10s anymore, do I rebrand into something else?
Yeah, I ran a second channel for a bit where I talked about like, I think I did videos on YouTube history and YouTube drama, and that was actually going pretty all right. That was always kind of there on the side if I wanted to do that as my channel instead. But I think deep down, I was always going to stick with top 10 wrestling. Like there was points I was saying I should quit soon, I should do this, but I always kept delaying it. I don't think I ever really would have quit. I think I would have kept top 10 wrestling going no matter what, and just kept talking about wrestling. I'm glad I'm still around, because you know what, this current era of YouTube, I'm enjoying a lot right now, and I'm having a lot of fun making videos. It's been good, so I'm glad I'm still around. Very grateful.
Did you ever have a thought about rebranding the top 10 wrestling channel into another like wrestling name when you took a step back from top 10 list?
Oh, absolutely. It's been on my mind for years. If my 100k subscriber play button didn't say top 10 wrestling, I'd do it. That's always what.
Is that the only reason?
That's the only reason. I would change the channel if my play button didn't say top 10 wrestling on it.
So would you give a piece of advice that you might give them, and not to lead the question, but like,
okay,
is it to someone like, decide your channel name before you become successful?
Oh, I don't know. I feel like I'm one of the only people that the only reason I'm not changing my channel is because of play button. I feel like not many people would have that reason that I have. So just be, I don't know, just do what name you want. Change it if you want to. Just don't make the same mistake I did if you feel like you will, you know?
It's like, I'm umming and ahhing, do I change? Because now I do interviews. Do I have to incorporate the interview name? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like,
I know what you mean.
It's like, but at the end of the day, that's my Twitter name. That's what I'm known as when I work with Body Slam. So it's a bit like,
yeah,
I can't now. Do you know what I mean?
I'm too deep into it. I can't change it now.
Exactly. Yeah. So if we move on to how you put content together, when it comes to a top 10 list, how were you putting them together? Was it researched? Were they just sort of your own opinions, or was it a little column A, little column B?
So, like I said, I started my YouTube channel when I was like 14. And for the first couple of years, when I was like 14, 15, 16, my channel was so unprofessionally ran. I have no idea how people watch me. I did like barely any research. I would just get a notepad on my computer and just write the top 10 list, like number 10 this, number 9 this, 8,
That's how
7
I
this.
started when I used
And
to
I
do
did,
my top tens. Funny
but
enough.
I wouldn't write anything for number 10. I would just write the names of the people or the match that I'm listing
Yeah,
and
I'm
then just talk
exactly the
off
same.
script and then just talk about it off script, just wing
Mm.
it for every single
Yeah.
list. There's old videos where I stutter, mess up words, but still keep going. Like, there's such bad videos. I don't know how people watched it, but that's how I did it back in the day as a kid.
So with the videos you did as a kid, you mentioned the stuttering and
Yeah.
maybe a lack of confidence. Would that be fair to say?
I wouldn't even say it's a lack of confidence because I've done YouTube for a long time. I just think it's just me not being able to speak and then being too lazy to re-record it. I think it's genuinely just that.
Or when does that switch happen then that you're like, okay, if I'm going to take this seriously, I've got to be professional and stuff like that?
Again, I just started watching more What Culture. They started stepping up their videos. I'm like, God, they are like the kings of this field right now. I need to just script my videos more, make them longer because I was doing like 4 minute top 10 lists. So I extended them the length of those videos, got my average like duration up. And yeah, I just started changing the thumbnail styles. I just kind of switched up the aesthetic of the channel really, and it worked for the better. That worked really well for the channel, and it grew a lot during that era.
Do you remember a specific moment where you were like, okay, or maybe a What Culture video you were watching that you were like, okay, I've got to be professional about this now?
Oh, I just feel like it wasn't a specific video. I feel like it was just their channel in general. They were introducing a lot more formulas. They were doing more series, doing more content, and just outputting so much that I felt like I needed to kind of step up my game a bit.
Fair enough. So you did mention earlier about a very long break you took in 2017. I do apologize.
Yeah, 17 or 18.
So first of all, what led to that break? Was it anything specific?
Mainly creative burnout and just a lack of motivation. I got very bored of making the same content over and over again. And I ended up just uploading a lot less frequently. And I think it was like a 2 month break or 3 month break in the end in total.
What have you put in place now to avoid that, as you call it, creative burnout? And what advice would you give to people to avoid creative burnout?
Well, I guess the advice I would give is exactly what I've kind of been doing, which is just trying to always, like I said, in my channel, I'm at a place now where the videos I make are stuff I'm genuinely interested in. So it doesn't feel like it's a chore making it. But also, I do different styles of video. Someday I'll do a video where I'm watching a show because it's like a reaction video. The other days I'll do a video where I'm just discussing, just talking to the microphone, just having a discussion. Other days I'll do a top 10 list. Other days I'll then do a TEW booking video. I switch up the different ways of the videos are being recorded. So I'm not doing the same task over and over again. And I can edit them in a different way. I can do this in different ways. I keep what I'm doing kind of fresh, I feel like, in my head. So I'm not repeating everything over and over again. Like when I come back to doing a video where I watch something, by the time I'm doing it, I've done another 5 different video formulas since then. So it feels new in my head, kind of doing like a reaction video again. And I'm just enjoying doing YouTube right now. Like as a fan, I get to do this. I say again, I love it. It's great.
Yeah. So also you did mention that during that break you were considering calling it quits, for lack of a better word, right?
Yeah.
So first of all, what was your plan if you did quit? And then what ultimately stopped you from quitting YouTube?
I think the plan wasn't to quit fully. It was to quit doing it as like a full-time thing. It's not really a full-time thing, but to a lesser degree, and just to keep it always
sorry, I
part-time.
misunderstood.
Oh no, not at all. Because there was a period where I was planning on like actually quitting, and that came after my break. Because when I returned from my break, my channel was just dead in the water a bit. Then that's when I considered quitting. But during my long absence, I was just kind of reconsidering my stance with, upload schedule. How often am I doing this? Is it going to be a big thing in my life still? That's kind of where I was at.
What about okay? So then, what led to you after your break deciding to maybe quit?
Just the channel wasn't doing very well. I was trying to make content that I thought would like do really well, like these awful clickbait videos that just didn't work, and it was just dreadful content. And I didn't like the content I was making. I was so unfulfilled. I was just making content like just awful content for like a year and a half, and I realistically, you know what? After this interview, I'm gonna go back and delete like half of those videos because some of them are terrible. But just making dreadful content for a year and a half, and it just slogging through YouTube until I finally obviously changed things up. But yeah, I kept it going. I wanted to quit mainly because the channel wasn't doing well. I just kind of wanted to figure out how I can like reignite my passion for YouTube again because I feel like I had kind of lost that, and I kind of lost how to get there again until I obviously did, and I've kind of had that passion since then. So thank God for that.
What would you do if you reached a creative wall, shall we say, and you lost your passion again? Would
I think I would just straight up just completely switch what I'm doing. I just think in my head, what do I like right now? What content should I make? And just make it. Just do it. If it's wrestling related, that is obviously just do it and do it for the channel because I've gone through so many different I talk about so many different things on my channel. I think I could be able to keep it going. Just talk about even more random shit on wrestling. You know. I think
thank
if I
you for
lost
the
in,
no swear, by the way. That makes my
no
job a
worries.
lot easier.
No worries. As a YouTuber, I know the struggle. I've done interviews too. Always letting the guests know, please don't do this.
Yeah.
But
As they say in the UK, you're live on Channel 4. Please don't say, I can't say it without swearing, but
yeah,
you take my point.
yeah.
So, with your channel in the place you are now, where do you want to see it grow in the future? What is some videos that maybe you're like, you've had in the can for a while or in your head for a while that you're maybe have decided not to make or have been like, oh, I really want to make this but don't want to upset the algorithm at the minute? Like, what's your plan going forward?
My plan going forward is to keep making my current form of content until it runs dry or until I get bored of it and want to talk about something else. Again, I want to keep my channel just to me talking about, you know, whatever I find interesting and just posting it online for others to see and chat about. That's kind of the aim of my content, really. So I just want to keep it going with that. In terms of content I want to make, but not upset the algorithm, there's not many videos I feel like. Again, I feel like I don't look into the algorithm that much. Again, I truly just upload videos of what I'm interested in. But one video I really want to do, which I feel like is never going to happen, and not because of the algorithm and purely because of logistics, is I really want to do a video, if possible, where I've chatted to EC3 and talked about control your narrative, about all this, had a conversation with him about it. But I feel like that would never happen. But logistics wise, I feel like I'm probably hated in the control your narrative locker room. If they know me, they either don't know me at all or they hate me. Probably they don't know me, but if they do know me, then they probably hate me. It's either that. And either way, if I was to message EC3 and be like, "Hey, do you want to do an interview?" and he didn't know who I was, and then because of that email, like find out who I was, he'd absolutely say no. I think, but I would love to talk to EC3 about controlling narrative. I think that'd be a great video.
Yeah. So when it comes to the future of you and control your narrative, will you keep making videos on it, or is it sort of thing where it's like, okay, I've had my fun, like I've had enough of this now?
Well, recently I was kind of planning on saying that or just doing that, kind of wrapping up the control narrative arc on the channel and focusing on other content. But the more just keeps happening with control narrative out of nowhere. Like I'm expecting control narrative to die down, slow down a bit. The more just keeps happening to my surprise. So I just keep making content talking about it. Like every time I think I'm out, they drag me back in. Like I can't keep away from control narrative. What can I say?
Fair enough. As we look at wrapping this up, we're gonna do a very quick segment that I call generic questions. Those of you that have seen my videos before will know this is where I ask my guests their favorite match, favorite pay per view, favorite theme song, favorite tag team, and favorite superstar of all time. Basically, questions that I'm sure Tom gets asked on social media quite regularly. And now he'll have a place to be like,
Yeah.
look,
A good
I've
FAQ.
answered this. Please go watch this in the hopes that he won't have to answer them in the future. So what's your favorite match of all time?
Favorite match of all time. It's such a basic answer to a basic question, but it is Punk versus Cena, Money in the Bank. It's always been that. It's that, or a couple honorable mentions are talking about more recent one. Omega versus Danielson, I loved.
Oh,
And in terms of match I've seen live, a random UK match, Tom Thelwell versus what was his name? Sexy Kev Lloyd from Cats Pro here in Manchester. That's a match I saw live last year. That was really fun. So those are some of my favorite matches.
What about favorite pay-per-view?
Favorite pay-per-view, and I genuinely mean this, last year's All Out pay-per-view, 2021.
That's a common one.
Yeah, it genuinely became my favorite of all time at that recently, which I never thought could happen. But I love that show top to bottom. You had Soho debut, Ruby Soho, Adam Cole, Danielson. What just a great all-round show from top to bottom. I love that show.
Favorite wrestler's theme song?
Favorite theme song? Oh, I do love AJ Styles' TNA theme song. Get Ready to Fly, with the Aussie guy saying every day of my life. That one's really good. Abyss's TNA theme song always banged. Abyss had a great TNA theme song. Overall, number one, I think. I actually can't think. If I had to just say one, I'd probably say "This Fire Burns" by CM Punk. Maybe I was a big CM Punk guy as a teen. You'll find that in a lot of my answers probably coming up. I was a big CM Punk guy as a teenager.
Okay. Favorite tag team of all time?
Favorite tag team of all time, the New Day, without a doubt. New Day. They've been the best since they debuted. Love them.
Do I be pedantic and say they're not a tag team? But
they're a trio. I guess so. Then any variation of the New Day trio is my favorite tag team. Any two of them.
Fair enough. And then
we'll
as we wrap this up, I'm guessing I can guess the answer. But who is your favorite superstar of all time?
Shocker alert here. I don't think anyone's expecting this. No one placed their bet on CM Punk being my favorite of all time. Even with his current, listen, I'll say this right now. This might annoy some people. I get his current problems he's having with all the tension he's causing in the AEW locker room, the backstage heat. I don't think it's good at all. It's not good. I'm disappointed. However, it doesn't change the fact he's my favorite of all time. So deal with it. Sorry. That's unfortunate.
Just to peel the curtain back, guys, we're recording this the day after All Out. So that is why that came up.
So much more drama is happening, apparently, that I haven't even looked at yet. I've just seen a tiny bit of it. But I
haven't seen All Out the show. All I've seen is the drama at the minute.
I still love seeing CM Punk on screen, even with the drama. I try to separate the wrestler from the person as much as I can, unless it's really bad, Benoit. I don't want to go. And even I don't want to go to. I don't want to mention names, but you know what I mean. I think I can.
Sorry, I get that too.
No, I was talking more like weirdos and in the scene,
I get you.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But if it's just a guy who has backstage heat, I don't really care. It's not my business. I'm a fan. I shouldn't know about it anyway. But that's where we are in wrestling. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I always love seeing CM Punk on screen. Love seeing his matches. He had a good match with Mox last night. I thought.
I've not seen it yet. As soon as we finish this, I'm going to stick All Out on.
But I'll say my other favorite wrestler of all time is Candice LeRae. So there you go. Yeah, if the CM Punk answer didn't satisfy people,
why does Candice LeRae speak to you?
Loved her in PWG back in the day. That was my only sort of part of indie wrestling I watched during that time. I wasn't really into indie wrestling. I didn't know anything about it, but I knew about Candice LeRae and I just watched her stuff in PWG. And she was awesome then, and loved her in WWE. Yeah, and I think she doesn't get the credit she deserves. She's like a big pioneer in women's wrestling.
I probably agree on that. So as we wrap this up, the question I end all my interviews on is with YouTube, with podcasting, with social media in general. we're all sort of gonna live forever in some sort of very weird way. So, what is one piece of content from your good self that you want the good people to check out? And then what is one that you're like, if you could avoid that, I would appreciate it.
Like a piece of my content.
Yeah, one piece of content from your good
Okay.
self.
One piece of content from my good self. I'd say check out my first controlling narrative video to get my reaction to the first time I ever watched that show, and just it's fun. It's a whole lot of shenanigans in that video, but something to avoid. I'd say anything from my early days of YouTube, from my first year. Avoid any one of those videos.
Fair enough. And as we wrap this up, Tom, because it has been a lot of fun, where can the good people find you and your content?
At Top 10 Wrestling on YouTube and Twitter. And you can also find at I'm Tom Bell my Instagram, and that's pretty much all the social medias I use. I have Alliance Wrestling as well, which is an interview wrestling channel I had. I'm thinking of bringing that back, so you can subscribe to that if you'd like. But yeah, that's just what I'm doing at the moment.
It's well worth doing, guys. So if you guys like this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Tom Talk Trash. Follow me on Twitter at Tom Talk Trash. Follow bodyslam.net wherever you get your podcasts, and on Twitter for my show with Cassidy Haynes, The Wrestle Watch Pod. And follow The Wrestle Watch Pod on Twitter to help us pick our match every week. And I will see you in the next one. A goodbye.